Good evening. It is so good to see you tonight, to have you as part of our number, and to welcome you to what we pray will be a great endeavor, but also a useful benefit to you and to your family and to your hearts over the next many weeks. We are entering into a special series and focus on these Sunday nights. And what we are wanting to do and what we are aiming to do over the next many weeks is to make available to you and to your family and friends opportunities to come and learn, to hear from the Word of God, some aspects that help us respond to issues, challenges, and realities of life. I appreciate so much the song that Mark led us in singing before our evening is underway, and as part of our evening getting underway, Ancient Words. We really believe in our heart of hearts as God's people that there are answers to the world in which we live and the questions that the world brings to us because we're living in this time, in this age. We believe there are answers from the Word of God to those questions. We believe also that we will find ourselves struggling as Christians right along with those around us in the world who may or may not be Christians, struggling to figure out what is it that I do with these issues in my life, and how is it that I finally come to see the answer that the Lord has to provide. We will, in every effort, make forth a promise to you that there is no claim that we have a corner market on the truth, but we will not back up from telling you confidently and adamantly that we believe God's truth is the answer to every trouble and trial of life. How we approach that and in what manner we see that makes all the difference to us. So across these next many weeks, we're going to talk about a great number of topics and a variety, to be sure, that we know can benefit and bless your life. There may be friends with whom you are connected that they have been reticent in their connection to Jesus Christ, or they have been apprehensive about stepping into a church building. And yet there is a topic that we have on the schedule that you know is something of personal interest to them. And so by way of opportunity, that becomes the open door for them to come in and be a part of us, be around us, be with us, have a sense of community that gives to them not just a word of encouragement, but a word of hope to look beyond just the immediate issue of life and see a pathway in helping to overcome that. Do you have friends that have ever said, man, if I walk through the church door, it is surely going to cave in? Have you ever had somebody say that? Maybe you're that person, and you took a big step in being here tonight. Thank you for your courage. We promise you that we will make every effort to be kind, to be loving. And we promise you that if there are those among our number who are not kind and loving, we'll chew them out while you're not around. We want to be kind and loving to our friends and our neighbors. And we want to give you an assurance that we are confident God can help provide for us a way of understanding. We're going to cover a lot of territory over the next number of weeks. Myself, Joe DeWeese, and Steve Moore will talk about things from anxiety and depression to addiction and the pathway of breaking free of anxiety and depression and addictions. We'll talk about issues related to our lives in unique ways. The things that come to us as caregivers of individuals in our families and our homes whose needs may continually evolve but always remain. We'll talk about being caregivers to those temporary moments in time when we see ourselves caring for aging parents or those dealing with protracted health issues. We'll talk about the issues relative to grief and what it means to walk through that valley. and to embrace that reality. We'll talk about the doubts of life. Our last session that we spend together, God willing, on the 22nd of December, that we'll have a panel discussion that night about some of the weightier matters of doubt and where does faith weigh in and how do we answer some of these issues of life. We want to invite you to be a part of the conversation along the way. And so if you have with you tonight your mobile device or a tablet and you want to go to the following website, you can go to www.menti.com. And if you go to that website, you can place in the 6-digit code 404312, 404312. And it will send any question that you might have to me, and we'll be able to interact and address those questions along the way this evening so that there can be that opportunity for you to engage in something or some item of interest to you relative to our topic that we're discussing and sharing tonight. Don't worry, I'll put that slide back up there in just a little while to remind you. So if you didn't get to it or you didn't log on quickly enough like you wanted to, don't worry. www.menti.com 404312 will take you to our participation website, and you can engage in asking the questions that you might have. And if you aren't able to do that, you're not able to dial that up, and you want to ask a question, we'll give you that opportunity together if you're comfortable in doing so in this kind of setting. And if you have a question that you want to ask later on after this setting, well, we'll make sure that we arrange that as well. Let me tell you one other item and then we'll get underway. This series was really born out of a request that came several months ago, really back almost at the first of the year, from a congregation not too far from where we are in Dixon, over in Fairview, Tennessee. They contacted me and said, we were wanting to host a community series dealing with issues that individuals most oftentimes encounter in life. And we were wanting to do this for about 9 Thursday nights throughout the summer. Would you be interested in helping us with that? Well, at first thought, I was very much honored to consider that. And so I asked, well, what night did you have in mind? They said, well, all 9 of them. Well, that presents a problem. I don't know that I can arrange 9 consecutive Thursday nights in the summer to be available for something like that. So what if I were able to gain a couple of friends and brothers and cohorts, and if we were able to address those 9 topics across those 9 weeks, would that be okay? Yes, that would be all right. So they didn't know me well enough to know I'm not a good judge of character, who I would bring in. So they agreed to that. And along the way, Joe DeWeese and Steve Moore agreed to help out. And so for 9 weeks in the summer, we shared together time with the Fairview congregation. And it really was a blessing to us. We think it might have been somewhat of a blessing to them. But it blessed our lives because we began to realize that these are issues and concepts, not just in their unique nature, but beyond, that are touching and addressing people's lives. I'll tell you right now, they're not exhaustive. What we're trying to do is give you at least some insight to say, that, has God spoken to any of these matters? Yes. Yes, He has. So, along the way, we might learn some things. One, we might learn that we don't like the answers that we're always given. Number 2, we might learn that God has more compassion and understanding for our state of life and being that maybe we previously thought. And number 3, we'll learn, if anything and nothing else, that there is always hope when we appeal to God through Him in whatever issue we're facing. If you'll journey with us, we'll make the promise that we take this journey together to see the goodness of God in the land of the living. Think about the world that we're living in now and how we're hooked on a feeling. If any of you were fans of the movie Guardian of the Galaxy and their soundtrack, the awesome mixtape, Volume 1, right? And how that this this character involved in this movie is continually listening to certain soundtrack tracks of days gone by. One of them was from the group Blue Suede, Hooked on a Feeling. Steve Baggett, in all of his handicapped glory, he's going to come lead that for us right now. He's going to lay down the uka chaka, right? Huh? Are you ready? No, he's not. I told him this afternoon, I said, you don't know how close I was to coming down front this morning and riding your scooter all the way up to the podium. I was so eager and ready. You think about how we're living in a world today where emotions seem like they are at the forefront of everything. Just journey with me in the observation of a few things. Do you think we're living in a world that cares more about facts or feelings? I think in so many ways, and you acknowledge it too, we are a people who almost seem to be on the edge of whatever it is we are feeling in any one given moment. That seems to be the thing that we ought to pay attention to, or that we ought to give credence to. You can just glance at the world around you for a time and see that what we feel in any one given moment is really pretty profound. Maybe you saw on the news not that long ago, just the last couple of weeks, where attending a Dallas Cowboys game, Ellen DeGeneres and George W. Bush, probably two individuals who sit on the polar opposite end of spectrum of belief, were just absolutely eviscerated for sitting next to one another in two chairs. How dare you sit by him/her? Who and what are you thinking? Don't you know who he is? Don't you know what he's done? And be honest, right now, just looking at that picture, some of you may be having some kind of emotional response. Thinking, oh man, can't we just talk about something else other than the stuff that I deal with on a day-to-day basis? I thought that's what church was supposed to be about. Yeah, well, that's probably one of the problems with church for the last couple of 100 years, that we've talked about stuff that doesn't deal with everything on a day-to-day basis. And this is where the rubber meets the road. Who are we supposed to be? Think about this. Think about watching a young teenage girl testify or give some type of statement before the United Nations regarding an issue that you may have a personal opinion about or you may not, concerning climate change. And how that you watch almost a visceral response come about. You set aside the issue and the context of the speech. Just set that aside for a moment. Look, I don't understand the climate, okay? I don't understand how a brown cow lives under a blue sky that eats green grass and gives white milk. I don't get that. I don't get it. But it happens. And I also am confident that the Lord said this earth will be here as long as He wants it to be here, and then when He melts it with fervent heat, there will be nothing left. I'm good with that. I'm moving on now. But I want you to watch the visceral response that comes when individuals see something that they either A, don't agree with, or B, don't understand why people don't see it the way they see it. And they simply can't have someone not seeing it their way. Think about this. Think about the world in which we live right now, where individuals are choosing to drop the nomenclature of first-person personal pronouns in the reference of he or she, him or her. And so you have the variety of genders coming across saying, I would rather you refer to me in some other way. How come? Well, because I feel, watch it, I feel as though I identify with this gender class. You know, it's a real issue that people are struggling and dealing with. Some of us might be prone to sit back and just laugh at that. Think, what on earth? Are you serious? But yet, when you start to see that suicide rates for those in the transgendered community are quadruple that of any other demographic, there's an issue there. There's an issue that we're not addressing, or at least we're not speaking to. And here's the thing, the issue that we think we're not addressing isn't the issue that's not being addressed. It's the issue of identity and value and purpose and of self. It's not just the idea or the concept of let's just get the right pronouns down. Recently, there was a meeting of a group of individuals who identify among a certain political class in Atlanta, Georgia. It took place a couple of months ago. And if you watch this particular video clip of their meeting taking place, it's pretty informative of the world in which we live. Because in the video clip, there is a young lady giving a speech, and she lets it be made known what her philosophy is and her ideological principles are. And then when she concludes her speech, the moderator comes and she returns to the podium and she begins dealing with individuals across the hall. And so one individual rises and he says, "Excuse me, personal point of preference. Personal point of preference." And so the moderator stops and calls on the young man and says, "Yes, go ahead." He says, I know we're all excited for being here, but there's just a lot of background and auditory noise going on. If everyone could please not make any noise, because I'm one of those individuals that struggles with sensory problems. And so if you could just refrain from making a lot of noise, guys, it would really help. It would really help. The moderator says, "Thank you for your comment." Immediately, the next man stands up and he says, personal point of preference, personal point of preference. Yes, go right ahead. Could we please stop using gender pronouns to refer to one another? What you began seeing was an illustration of how that we're living in a culture and a generation that has shaped itself by demanding everyone outside of me change their behavior so I no longer have to deal with what I feel inside of me. You've made a noise and shuffled your papers. Stop it! You referred to a man and a woman as a man or a woman or a he or a she or a they or a them. Quit! I am not content until you follow all the rules I have set for your life so that I will feel better. We sit back and we say, I don't get that. That does not make sense. I agree, that does not make sense. Because for one day and for no particular reason, we all started being offended by everything. Just out of the blue. Some of you are probably offended right now. Mission accomplished. And how did we get here? How did we wind up in a place and a time where our feelings are at the forefront of everything that engages us? How did we arrive at a place where we ourselves hinge everything by way of interaction based on how we feel on any given particular moment? I'm offended that a phone went off. Where'd it go? Tell them we said hi. They should have been here. We started at 5. We backed it up early just for you. Oh, he shouldn't call people out. Oh, he shouldn't say things like, look at people. It's everywhere, isn't it? It's just everywhere. How did we get to the place that we're in? May I suggest to you that we got to the place that we're in because we tried to find ways to medicate the thing that all of us feel but none of us know what to do with. And that is the feeling as though I'm in a world of one and nobody sees it. The biggest disease that mankind has ever faced is that of loneliness. I'm telling you that the answer for it has been given. But fewer and fewer in the generations that have followed since the answer has been given are following after it. The nature of our trying to medicate our loneliness, demanding that someone see us, has brought us to where we are today as a people. One of my favorite passages of Scripture is Isaiah 26 and verse 3. You will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you. Why? Because he trusts in you. Break apart that verse of Scripture and see it with me very briefly. You will keep him in perfect peace. What are you saying? Isaiah is saying this. The idea of the word perfect is a word that means complete and whole. It means in welfare and in number. It means in safety and in soundness. It means in health and in prosperity. I am kept whole. The idea of perfect is not the idea of flawless. The idea of perfect is the idea of everything is put together the way it needs to be. The idea of perfect is not the idea of nothing is in error. The idea of perfect is the idea that says everything is in its place as it should be. I am whole in this place. Most all of us at some point or time in our life have felt as though something is lacking, something is missing, something is out of step, or something is out of alignment. And so Isaiah says, you will keep him in perfect, this whole, this fullness, this healthy, this quieted place, this place of whole peace. What does he say? You'll keep him in a place of contentment, friendship, of human relationship, especially and particularly with God's covenant relationship. You'll keep me in peace, that is, from war in peace, as though it were an adjective. This is the active part of my life. This is the peace wherein I reside. Did you see it? You will keep him in perfect, whole peace. You will keep me put together. How often do you describe your days as just trying to balance all of the priorities or handle all the objects? Or you feel like you're just spinning tops. You get one plate to spin, you run to the next, and you spin it around, and you come to the next, you spin it around, only to have to return to the first one before it falls and hits the floor and shatters into 1,000 pieces. You think, how do I do this again? We feel torn in 1,000 different directions. Man, I am searching for peace. I want to feel whole, and I want to feel at peace. How do I get there? You think about the Scripture. You'll keep him in perfect peace whose mind. Now here's something. Whose what? Notice that he doesn't speak about the nature of the emotional center of the person. You'll keep him in perfect peace whose mind, my what? My form or my framing, my purpose, my framework, my form or my pottery of a graven image. A man is formed from the dust, a purpose, an imagination, and a device, an intellectual framework. Literally, it is the means by which we view. It's the frame, the window of how we think and how we shape our thought. If we view the world around us as though everything and anything at any given moment is going to be set up to cause us trouble or harm, we're going to view the world through a framework of calamity. It's sort of like that principle of Eeyore. He just walks around with that rain cloud hanging over his head, waiting for something to go wrong at any given moment. It's like the old Saturday Night Live sketch of Debbie Downer, who just thinks about how everything and at any moment, forgive me if your name's Debbie, how that anything and everything at any given moment will just go south. If you continually look at life through a lens that says this is all going to be bad, chances are you'll find a way to make that happen. So what does the Scripture say? You'll keep him in perfect peace. Why? Whose mind, the way you think. We'll look at a Scripture a little later, Proverbs 23 and 7. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. The nature of our thinking and the means of our thinking is critical. It is powerful. It is subject to us coming away with an understanding of the framework of how do I want to shape this thought? How do I want to shape this world of understanding? How do I want to shape how I view the world around me? You'll keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed. All right, watch this. The word stayed is a word that means to lean or to lay or to rest or support or to put or to uphold or to lean upon. Whose mind is stayed, to lean upon or lay upon, to rest or to lean against, to support, to uphold, to sustain, to brace oneself, to refresh, to revive. Where do I take my mind in moments of stress, anxiety, calamity, trouble, or distress? Where do I take my mind and lean it up against? What's the thing that I use to brace myself when I'm in the storm or in the difficult day of life? What's the thing that I go to? Where's my go-to place when it's just seeming to be going south? Do I lean my mind up against what I think should have happened? Do I lean my mind against how I think things should be? Do I lean my mind against, well, there you go, see, I've been abandoned and God doesn't want anything good for me to happen? Or is my mind kept in perfect peace because it is stayed, it is propped up, it is leaned up, it is positioned, it's secured, it's balanced up against Him? You will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you. Why? Because he trusts in you. He has a confidence. He is confident. He is bold. He's secure. He is made secure. He feels safe. And you are careless. Now listen, I've been careless in a lot of things, but here is the context. My cares are less as my mind is propped up and leaned up against Him. The real challenge is, how is it that we respond to these kinds of moments? It's really the nature of who we've been called to be, different from the world around us in Christ. For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit set their mind on the things of the Spirit. It's just the very nature of who we are as a people. It's how we view and see things in the world around us. It's how we view and come across the nature of what we interact with. There's this thing that we think about or talk about in terms of our world. And it's sort of that area of the near miss. And what do I mean by the near miss? Well, when I teach one of my courses at Fried Hardeman, physiological psychology, one of the textbooks is a book written by a doctor of the name Robert Sapolsky. He entitled the book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. Now, doesn't that sound like a great book? Those are the kinds of books I want to read. Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. Have you ever wondered why zebras don't get ulcers? Well, of course you haven't. Who cares, right? Zebras don't get ulcers because they are not standing around on the African plain trying to predict at what moment will a predator come attack me. They're not standing around trying to think of all the near misses of life that could possibly happen. And if they might happen, then what am I doing to be prepared for the thing that could possibly take place? Even though I don't know it will, I might want to be prepared just in case it should, because if it should, it'll be really bad. They don't get ulcers because they engage their system of, I need to run, when they're actually being chased. You know, humans have that same kind of system of hormones within the body. We've sort of just kind of termed it, for layman's terms, of fight or flight. You know, we're the only creature, we're the only human, we're the only created being that can be in a seated position and amp up our natural response of fight or flight without there ever being any true present threat. We can sit here and work ourselves up into a tizzy. Go ahead, I'll give you a minute. Here's that idea of the near miss. It's what might have happened, right? It's driving down the highway and somebody swerves onto the interstate and they cut you off and you almost hit them, but you don't. It's the big truck that you get on the interstate behind and he doesn't get over and he almost causes you to wreck, but you don't. We were away from you all last week. Hold your applause. And when we got back, we had a wonderful time. We were blessed. And so we took some time away with the kiddos for fall break. We had a lovely time. And on our lovely time, it was still lovely, even though one night our van, while we were gone, was burglarized. And I'm a concealed carry permit holder. I don't know. Maybe I should have told you that a year ago. But maybe some of you would have been nicer to me. So I generally carry a firearm when we travel and at other times. So there you go. So it was stolen. It was stolen from our automobile. My father gave that to me, and so that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. You know, I wasn't very pleased about that. And we discovered this the next morning. Someone said, "What kind of place were you staying in?" I said, "Well, maybe we shouldn't stay in a place that takes coupons." But anyway, we got up, we started going back through the scenario of the night before. So, you know, we saw the lights come on. Our van, the lights will come on if the driver's door is open. The lights came on. We saw the lights come on. We didn't get up. We thought, "What is that?" I don't know. Probably somebody driving by. We thought we heard this and we thought we heard that. We didn't get up and check. The next morning we discover all this. And then what do? Well, we start the process of the near miss. What if? What if I sent you down there and you encountered them? Well, I don't know, Brian. What would you have made me do? No. I said, "Mindy, what would have happened if I had gone, if you had said, 'Hey, go check,' and I got up and go check that out, and I interrupt these people and they've got my firearm? What would have happened? We don't know. Can you link all that together? Yeah, you can link all that together just like we can. Did it happen? Nope. Not a bit of it happened. But we'll sit here and ruminate over something that never happened. And we'll think about all of the emotional response that comes along with something that never happened. And we'll let ourselves feel that all day long. Didn't happen. Sometimes we live too often in the plane of the near miss. We just sort of camp there. Those things never happen. Let me tell you what did happen. The old man who lived, not our old man, but another old man, a real old man, lived next door. He found out what happened. Oh, he was devastated. I can't believe that. Here, I've got a golf cart. I'd like for you all to use it all week. Would you use this golf cart? I have a friend, and he has a place. I've talked to him, and he said, "You all come back, but I'm not going to tell you who he is until you tell me that you promise to come back. And he'll let you stay in his place. And here's my name and here's my number. And Brian, we might need a minister one day. Would you come back and help us if we need a minister one day?" What? What are you talking about? Do you want to know his name? Lawrence North. Do you want to know his first given name? Ira. Ira North. He said, "Did you ever know of a preacher named Ira North?" I said, "You can't preach for the churches of Christ if you don't know an Ira North. What are you talking about?" "Yeah, I know an Ira North." All along the way, there are other things that come about, blessings and goodness and gifts. So why is it that we run from things that aren't there? And why is it that we tell ourselves we ought to be running just in case because something might get us? We put ourselves through more than is necessary. There were some neurological images done several years ago that showed the difference. Really, it's just a couple years ago. This was done in the Netherlands. They had conducted some studies on what does the body look like when it's feeling certain things. So from anger to fear to disgust to happiness to sadness to surprise or to just no feeling at all. Here's the range. The darker red colors, gold colors, things of a brighter shade of hue, those show sort of the resonating factor of the emotion within the body. The cooler images show sort of like a numbness where the body does not feel the sensation whatsoever. Look at that image of happiness. Man, just head to toe. It's like when a sermon's over. That's how everybody looks. Here's this idea of anxiety. Look at anxiety, love, depression. Look at that. Look at that image of depression. Hear the words of the psalmist, like Psalm 101. There's this, and Psalm 102. There's this image of, I can't remember the last time I ate a meal. I can't remember the last time I slept well at night. I can't remember the last time I had anything go right for me. It's almost as if the body is just numbed out to feeling anything. Here's that idea of contempt. Look at that idea of contempt, where it resides. You see something or you see someone and you feel just this burning aggravation. Here's what I want to do to them. Here's what I want to have happen to them. I can't help but go back and watch that video clip of the Jean family and Brant Jean speaking to his brother's killer, Amber Geiger, and say to her, I don't want you to go to prison. I just don't, there's nothing in me that wants you to go to prison. Can you imagine? I don't want you to go to prison. I don't want you to spend one day behind bars. I don't want it to happen. Not an ounce of contempt. Look at pride. Just how pride fills the life. Shame. Wow. Where do you see shame resonating? You'd think it would be the eyes were hiding away. Shame is almost in everything I see. I'm so ashamed. So ashamed. Envy, how it almost kills the body and the nature of it. What do we do with all these feelings? Again, I bring you back. I believe that we are all suffering from the same disease that says, what about me and what am I supposed to do with all of this? Well, I believe that in many ways we change our way of thinking and that we alter our way of thinking in such a manner, in such an aspect that we begin to see differently. For as one thinks within his heart, so is he. How do I change this entire process? Well, I make a choice, honestly, and it is just as clear as that. It may not be simple, but it is as clear as that. It's a choice that we begin to realize, which direction do I want to go? You're free to make whatever choice you want, but you're not free from the consequences of your choice. If you want to hold on to pride or to contempt or to anger or to envy or to malice or any other thing, all those things that Scripture says, put off all these and put on Christ, you're free to hold on to all that stuff if you think it'll do you better, but you're not free from the consequences of that choice. So what am I supposed to do? I need to live with the confidence that God has not delivered me from myself into His kingdom just so I can continue struggling in the same old way I used to struggle. Ben Carson once said, I also came to realize that if people could make me angry when they could control me, why should I give someone else such power over my life? Alan Cohen, he's one of the authors of all the Chicken Soup for Whatever series. You give your power away when you make someone or something outside of you more important than what is inside of you. When Christ living in me is not the most significant part of that which lives in me, then something externally has gotten the power of who I am, and now I've got to find out, where do I get this power and how do I get it back? If we want to claim our power, we need to stop saying things like, you made me feel, and recognize that we can choose how we react. Sometimes we're angry at the world around us because they don't see things the way we see things. We demand them to see things the way we see things. Sometimes they're not going to see things the way you see things. It's either because they haven't experienced what you've experienced, or, quite frankly, you've not let them see what you're seeing. Or you let them see what you're seeing once and it didn't work out, so you said never again. And you blame people for the lousy feeling you have in your life. Not long ago, I was invited to speak on the topic of dealing with this very thing. But the topic was framed in what to do when other people hurt you. And through the study, a study on Jesus' passages in Matthew 5 and in Matthew 6 and in Luke 6, loving your enemy, doing good to those who hate you, blessing those who persecute you, loving those who would wish evil upon you. The conclusion I'd reached was this: I have never been hurt by anyone that I was not willing to first let hurt me. You let that sink in for a minute. No one has the power to hurt you unless you're willing to surrender the power of who you desire to be to that person. Now watch this. If you're willing to surrender who you desire to be to Christ, what kind of harm will he? He'll never do me harm. What kind of good will he? He'll do me good all the days of my life. That's Scripture. That's who he is. How do we get there? Let me take you through that way of thinking in a passage of Scripture. Matthew 16, verses 13 through 28. Think about the nature of that Scripture. If you have questions, remember our website, menti.com. 404312 is the number. 6 digits. 404312 is the number. If that's not right, you'll be asking questions on somebody else's panel. Number one, Matthew 16, 13 through 28. Here's the text. Jesus and his disciples come into the region of Caesarea Philippi. And Jesus stops and he asks his disciples, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" And they answered him and said, "Some say that you're Elijah, and some say that you're Jeremiah, and some say that you're John the Baptist, and still others say that you're one of the prophets." Okay, who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answered him and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus said, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And just as you said to me that I am Christ, so now I say to you, you are Peter. And on this rock of confession, I'll build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. And whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loose in heaven." That is to say, whatever you teach on earth, it will have already been taught in heaven. And whatever you permit on earth, it will have already been permitted in heaven. Nothing, Peter, that you're going to do has not already been authorized to be done on earth or in heaven by God. It's God who's doing this. Whatever you bind on earth, you'll be bound in heaven. What you loose on earth will be loose in heaven. And then a little while later, from that time forward, this is Matthew 6 and 21, Jesus began to tell them how they must go to Jerusalem, suffer many things at the hands of the scribes and Pharisees, be crucified and resurrected the third day. Peter said, "Lord, forbid it. I don't want this to happen." Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan. You don't know what's about to happen." And then eventually Jesus reaches the conclusion, if you would consider the value of your soul, what profit is it to a man if he should gain the whole world but lose his own soul? And just tell me, Peter, what will a man give in exchange for his soul? Walk back through that text with me. Matthew 16, verse 13. "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" How many answers was he given? Some say that you are who? Some say that you're Jeremiah. Some say that you are Elijah. Some say that you are John the Baptist. And still others say that you are one of the prophets. How many answers is that? How many opinions were floating around out there about Jesus? Who did people think he was? They thought he was at least one of 4 different categories of individuals: Elijah, Jeremiah, John the Baptist, or one of the prophets. What was Jesus' response? What? What do you mean? I don't look anything like John. Elijah? Are you kidding me? Seriously? They think I'm Elijah? Nahum? They think I'm Nahum? What are you talking about? Just any one of the old prophets? Is that what he said? Listen, his friends were being nice to him. Who do men say that I am? Well, Jesus, if you want to know the truth about it, some people said, you're the father of demons. If you don't believe me, they said that about him. Go back and read Mark chapter 2. Well, Jesus, some said that you are a drunkard, and a glutton. They said some pretty ugly things about him. But none of those things were true. Jesus turns and says, who do you say that I am? What's the answer? You're the Christ, the Son of the living God. Notice what Jesus doesn't do. In Matthew 16 and verse 13, Jesus does not back up and say, I can't believe those people would say that about me. How dare they think those things about me? I'm nothing like those people. Suggestion number one for watch how you think is to watch your language. I think we as a people today, if we're going to make any kind of inroad to the world around us, we need to abandon the phrase and the phrasing, if you made me feel blank. We need to stop farming out our feelings to everything else outside of us. Well, the church made me feel this. My husband made me feel that. My wife made me feel this. Own the feeling. Own whatever it is. If it's yours, it's yours. Own it. Because Jesus did not farm out his rejection to everyone else around him and say, how dare they think that about me? He knew who he was. Do you know who you are? Number next is work to respond and not to react. Jesus said, okay, who do you say that I am? Here was not this eruption. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You mean to tell me they think all those things about me? He gave instead a response, not a reaction, to this very critical moment. Think about this. He did not allow what he felt in that moment to triumph over his thought. There's another moment in Jesus' life when Jesus is praying in the garden, and then he leaves the prayer in the garden, and he's encountered by the arresting mob. And when they arrest him, Peter draws his sword, cuts off the ear of the centurion. And Jesus says, put your sword away. And he puts the ear back on the head of the man that had been wounded. And what did he say? Do you not know that I could call to my Father right now, and he'd send more than 12 legion of angels? There was a feeling that he had in the moment, but he allowed his thought. We're living in a world today that our feelings trump our thinking. Instead, when we stop and we pull back and we say, okay, what am I thinking about how I'm thinking in this moment? And what is it that I'm doing that I am trying to shape what I'm feeling and how I'm behaving? Maybe, just maybe, it would lead me to a better... Yes, but I may not get the justice I want. Or my point may be lost. That may be. But you can't control everyone else around you, but you can control you. What are you doing about that? You think about this aspect. Who are you trying to control? Do you demand that everyone else shape up and behave correctly around you? Or do you recognize that you must be in control of you? I love this image of Matthew 16, 15 through 16. I'll give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. That's really another mistranslation. It's really to be the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Sometimes we have viewed that as, here is death and Satan and hell attacking the kingdom. But why does any place have a gate? Places that have gates are kept up to keep things out. And this doesn't say that the gates of heaven will withstand it. What does this say about the kingdom? This says the gates of hell cannot stand up against it. What's it saying? It's saying that when you let God's Son control your life, not even the darkest hell that the world will throw at you, that the Satan of all time will give to you, can prevail against you. Not even the gates of hell can triumph over you. Who are you trying to control? Man, I got to make this person behave better, and I got to make that person behave better, and they said this, and I don't like it when people say stuff about that, and they tease me about this, and I don't like it when they tease me about that, and they brought up this, and they brought up that. Who are you trying to control? Because I'm telling you, in the manner of all aspects of our lives, Jesus said, let me just tell you something. If you are willing to live in my kingdom, nothing prevails against it. In fact, nothing prevails against my kingdom because my kingdom is always on the offensive. It is always the one that is attacking and tearing down the things that would threaten it. This is how my kingdom life works. Work with your power to choose. Nothing prevails against his kingdom. How am I living within the nature of that kingdom? How am I living within the nature of who I am? Willfully choose to value yourself. Matthew 16:26. What profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Man, what if you get everybody to get on board with your way of thinking, your way of feeling? What if you get everybody to agree with you that everything ought to be your way? What have you gained? What have you lost? In the world around us today, we need to ask ourselves, who are we giving our keys to? I'll give you the keys to what? I'll give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. You can come in. Who are you giving the keys to your emotional sense to the way that you feel about certain things, to how you think? Who gets those keys? Who gets the keys to your anxieties and to your sorrows, to your depression, to your addiction? Who gets the keys to your struggles, to your worries, to your fears? Who gets the keys to the things that occupy the space of the near miss? Who gets the keys to the things that are most concerning to you? It's the world in which we live that desperately needs to see there's a better way, not just to think and not just to feel, but there's a better way to live. It's the abundant life in Jesus Christ. We believe it's not done just once of hearing it, but it is continually practiced in our life and in our pursuit. Maybe there are those that have had or thought of questions along the way. Let me check in just to see if there are any who have asked. So here's one question. Should all feelings be trusted? Man, that is a great question. Next question. Okay. See, I knew you were still with me. Should all feelings be trusted? Well, that's really a great question. Here's the deal. Back in the biblical record, it felt right for Eve to eat some fruit that she was told don't eat. It felt right for Cain to kill his brother because he didn't like what his brother Abel was doing. Felt right for David to take another look at Bathsheba, even though he had no right to do that. All of those things felt right. But yet the end result of those feelings did not bear out so well. Yet at the same time, there's a reason why we have the emotions that we have. There's a reason why we have that sense of urgency, get up and run and go. Why? Well, the house might be burning down. Or you might need to get yourself out of a certain situation and be at safety. There's a reason why anxiety is there. Why we're scared to touch something that's hot. Or in certain scenarios, we have this provocation of fear. These things are in us for a particular reason. But when those things are not used in the manner, or they're not addressed in the manner that they were designed to, now we've got to look at it and say, how am I thinking in this scenario about what I'm feeling? Is what I'm feeling true? Is it manufactured? Have I created it? I might think something to myself and feel a certain way about it, and it makes perfect sense to me on the inside. But as soon as I say it outside of myself, it's the craziest thing I could have ever imagined. And as soon as I say it out loud, then it's, you know what, that is so foolish of me to think that. So not every feeling is worthy of being trusted, but every feeling can certainly be given some kind of credit. I got these socks as a gift. Next question. They said, where did you get those socks? That's what they wanted to know. These were a gift. All right, move on. Next question. I'm going to mark that one answered. All right, no more questions. That's all they wanted to know. Should every feeling be trusted? And where do you get these socks? These socks can be yours for the right price. Maybe you have a question that you don't want to send it up here, but you wanted to ask right now. Maybe you're ready to go home because you feel like it. We're grateful for you being here. You've blessed us with your presence. We're going to cover a lot of ground on the next several Sunday nights. And we want to cover that ground together with you. Maybe if nothing more, this has given you an opportunity to pause and think about the way you've been thinking or feeling in your life. And maybe you don't have the answer for how that needs to begin to change in your life, but you know that there is someone that has keys to a better kingdom than you could ever create on your own. And by that truth, you are absolutely right. His name is Jesus Christ. If there is some way in which we can help you know more about Him, if we can aid you in learning of the blessing of peace that He brings to you, this is our time that we extend to you to make it known to us how we can help. If there is a means by which we can aid you, whether it be in prayer or in support of where you are in life, we're going to sing a song together. We'll ask that you come and share your need with us. We'll ask that we stand together so that you can come to us while we sing that song. Come as we stand and as we sing.